It's not the Veloster. It's the Elantra. The Elantra N, because they killed the Veloster. Right. I knew that before I showed up. I knew that. The Hyundai Elantra N, for, you know, the people that watch all the videos and see all the cool Whiskey Canyon road driving, may make you think that it's a fantastic car to pick up. This is Josh Elliott's Elantra N that 27 minutes ago I thought was a Veloster N. Turns out this one has 2 rear doors that are real. And he told me about this car because he picked up the Audi R8, and I figured the man had good taste. I've never been in a Hyundai Elantra N, nor have I been in a Hyundai in the past decade or so. I think when I think about the Hyundais that I remember the days of the Tiburon. The Tiburon GT, it was the car that I wanted when I was 16 years old, and I gosh darn didn't get it. I picked up a 3000 GT SL, so you can say what you want about Mitsubishi these days, but this is a new car. It's their performance sedan. It's the N. It's what killed the Veloster to focus on this and a Kona with the same letter. But the real question you have to ask yourself is this actually a fun sports car, or is this just a car that makes you believe that it's a sports car? Nice door closing noises, that's good. This noise, not so much. It's an Elantra. You can get them new for like 32 grand, which really isn't that bad when you consider you get like 277 horsepower and a bunch of torque. Not 300 horsepower, so it's not in Type R range, but it's in Hyundai's own little world range. That's nicer. Will my hat fit? Nope. I suppose we should drive the car instead of just talking while you're completely overexposed in a camera. You know, you probably can't even see me because the tint is so astronomically dark on this car. All right, let's take this thing for a rip. We're putting it in the fire mode. Fire mode, AKA cool animation, Grand Theft Auto 5 mode. Oh, that is fun. You know, there are plenty of people that are out there reviewing these cars, talking about how fantastic they are as a new car, but nobody's actually really talking about this car like an enthusiast. Nobody's really talking about if it's a car that's worth picking up to modify, to slam on the ground, to proverbial throw it on its nuts. And I don't understand why. Because at the end of the day, the Hyundai Elantra is one of those cars that people could pick up for a pretty good price. And that's really what we're looking at with this car. It's not just about, does it look like it could be a race car, or does it sound like it could be a race car, or could I turn on the sound inside the car to make it sound like a race car? It's a matter of fact on if it actually is a car worth picking up because it can do the things it looks like it could do. In terms of noise, it's got an intake and a blow-off valve. That's all it's got. You know, I really don't mind the way that it sounds. I really don't mind the way that it even drives. It drives good. When you put it in the sport mode out of everything, like, it's cool. You got this little NGS, you get 20 seconds, you get over boost like it's a fucking iBuyPower PC tower. You get a lot of fun stuff with the car. And if you're the driver, it is enjoyable. Passenger, not so much. I think the best thing so far about driving this car is the fact that the seats are actually incredibly comfortable. And they look pretty sharp. They got the little N logo in them, they light up, that's exciting. So I don't think this is a car that's worth asking, you know, is it worth 32 grand? Because the answer is probably yes. Like, if that's all that you're looking for when you're watching all of these reviews of people diving them through the canyon roads, and you say, is this worth 32 grand in comparison to the competition and what you get? It's probably the best bang for your buck car that you can buy. Here are the 3 reasons why I would probably buy a Hyundai Elantra N. Number 1, because you need a daily driver that sounds and looks kind of fun. Reason number 2, because you got a good deal on it. Reason number 3, I'm not sure there's 3 reasons. I think there's only 2. 3 reasons why I would not buy the Hyundai Elantra N. Every single time a car manufacturer designs something with fake vents, a cute kitten passes away for circumstances outside of its control. And this thing has massacred my favorite animal! And every single time they come out with something cool, it only takes about 2 years for them to replace it with something else. There's never been a long enough time that Hyundai's been able to hold on to a car where it's felt like it's become, I don't know, a keepsake, a halo car, a flagship version of what it needs to be. And I think that's what they're trying to do at the end, but I've never trusted Hyundai long enough to say that they've got something worth keeping. Do you have something worth keeping when the cars seem to depreciate insanely hard within the first 3 years of staying alive? Or the fact that your parents will tell you not to buy one because of when they were originally introduced in the United States, they were actually pretty darn bad. Now, Hyundai just made a bunch of noise with their new concept cars, their new, things that look like a DeLorean and a drift guy from Japan got together and made a car, and that's really cool. But they're not focusing really on that. They're building Elantra Ns. They're building Kona Ns. The driving doesn't feel bad. The steering doesn't feel bad. No part of the actual driving experience itself doesn't feel bad. If you're just looking to get a new car that's got some oomph, and you're not a big scaredy cat to depreciation, the car's probably for you. So let's talk about the exterior. This odd little sedan that is just trying to be everything that you'd want it to be. First things first, it's got fake vents. It's got fake vents here and here and here and in the back. And because it's a Hyundai, that means that when you slap things, they move a lot. Now that you could call it flex, maybe it's intended to be built like that, but I will never be okay with fake vents on anything. And that's where I'm trying to get into, where I'm not entirely sure if the Elantra N truly is a performance sedan or if it's a sedan that's trying to look like a performance car. Because the vents go from the front, they also go to the back. What are you doing being fake, you fucking faker? Fake vents. What are you doing out here being all fake looking ass? It's that exact noise that worries me. Fake vents looking ass. Look like a polygon from Dune. And the last thing I'll say about the exterior, and this is something that comes in when you start buying these pre-owned. This car is supposed to come with Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's, a great tire for a great potential performance sedan. It is, by all means, probably the best tire you could throw on a car like this to run some serious good numbers. The problem is that when you buy one of these cars pre-owned, those tires may not come on that car. In this case, we have Uniroyal Tiger Paws. Out of everything, Uniroyal Tiger Paws? There's cost savings. I'm not mad about that, okay? And I want to talk about a couple of the good things. Now this one has an aftermarket intake. It's got carbon fiber on it, which is really awesome. It's got this fun turbocharged engine. There's only so many ways you can make a 4-cylinder sound good, and I will give it credit where credit is due. This thing does sound cool. It sounds pretty fun and exciting. It sounds like it ought to want to go fast. And there should be credit given to that because there's a lot of cars out there that are getting quieter and more tame because of everything going on in the EPA. And this car seems to do a really good job at trying to find a way to make you excited to drive it. Okay. And I also got to say, it does what's needed for a back seat. We just talked about the Type R, the 2023, and the fact that it doesn't come with anything in the back seat, mostly to probably save cost. The Elantra N also elects to not feed any sort of air conditioning to anyone in the back seat because when you're not the driver, Hyundai pretty much says, F you. Got headspace though, that's nice. Let me just squeeze right past you there, bud. Oh. Here's where all of the money went with Hyundai. The driver's experience in the car is maximized. There's so many cool little buttons and features. So much NGS that I thought was a start button. And the shifter and the e-brake actually don't feel terrible. You still get some dead buttons. You get a good haptic feedback. I love the air conditioning and the control units. I love that they built it right into the little scroller. I love the fact that when you press the start button, you get a fun experience between the two 10.25-inch screens. And when you turn it on, it's like I'm jumping into Night Racer. And that's kind of the whole thing. You press the button and you get a cool little experience. You press the button again, you can disable it, hold it, and there you go. Press it again, it all goes away. You can press this button too, which can be coded to pretty much anything that you want, and you get more experiences. Every single time I pressed the button, it was like I was going through a different game and trying to beat the next character on the blacklist, which is kind of the whole point of the car. It's meant to feel and look like it's an experience. And I will say that there's a couple things that I really do like about the interior. I like the way the steering wheel feels. I like the buttons. I like the fact that it doesn't really feel like they cheaped out on anything so much that you notice it. It just all feels like it's there and it needs to be there. Sure, again, you get some of the dead buttons, and sure, that parking camera does remind me of a VHS, but I think those are all things you can get over. How can you even be mad that a Hyundai sounds like that? I would say the only last thing about the exterior that is a little bit interesting is how the body panels crease in between the two doors. You can see it right in the center. It splits off and goes upwards towards the door handles, and then there's another crease that goes downwards towards the rear wheel wells. I don't really see it that often, and I always know that Hyundai is a little bit different in terms of how it does its body paneling. It is a neat thing because they tie it back together towards the rear taillights, which connect that top crease. The bottom crease though, I'm not really sure. That little connecting point still just feels, I don't know, a little bit odd. But what about the mods? What about the fact that this car just happens to have a blow-off valve and it also has an intake, but not anything else? What is that to say about people that are looking to pick one up that actually want to modify one of these outside of maybe some wheels and tires? Well, there's not a whole lot out there yet, and I'm not entirely sure there ever will be. Hyundai has always sat in this weird spot in the market where there's always been enough of an aftermarket modification community, but never one large enough that I feel like it sustains itself. You're not looking at a Type R, you're not looking at an SI, you're not looking at a Volkswagen, and you're certainly not looking at anything on the domestic side that has a massive onslaught of millions of people. You're looking at a car that's trying to hit every possible market type, which it maybe isn't a bad deal unless you are an enthusiast and you are looking to modify one of these, because that can be a little bit of a pain in the ass. Trust me, I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt. What do I have to lose? So would I ever own one? Hyundai does seem to be on a hiring spree from European manufacturers all over, hiring designers from Volkswagen and Audi, everyone in between. They're trying desperately to fix this depreciation stigma that's followed this car for a really long time. And I think they've done a really good job. And as a new car for the price point that you're getting, I don't think you'll ever be able to beat Hyundai. For that, I would give this thing like an 8 out of 10. But if you're an enthusiast and you're looking to buy a platform that's gonna allow you to do stuff to it, that's gonna allow you to keep it for longer than the lease term, that's gonna allow you to actually do some fun stuff with it without having to worry about some sort of disastrous maintenance issue, I'm not entirely sure the Elantra has enough quirks and features kind of straightened out, because they never keep these car trims long enough for them to actually be sorted out. And for that reason, I'd probably give it a 6. So while people may think I'm being hard on the Elantra N, I'm really not trying to be. It's a good car. It's got a lot of horsepower for what it is. It's a fun sounding, cackling, popping, noise inducing, turbocharged excitement with an ELSD and a piece that makes the whole thing have to come out anytime you need to replace a bearing. I'm just worried about Hyundai in general. I'm worried that the car won't stay around long enough for people to keep being excited about it after the new launch comes around. That's, at the end of the day, my greatest worry. These cars have never really seemed to stay around that long. They only are around for a couple of years before they're replaced with some other trim, some other racing department, and some other group. And you can see that the N trim from Hyundai is still trying to earn its stripes in terms of understanding how this department is really supposed to operate at a dealership when cars are coming with more than 200 horsepower. It's a little bit of an interesting thing to be in, and a pretty fickle that I wonder if Hyundai's actually gonna stick to. After all, they finally have all the engineers, they finally have all the designers. Now they just need to see if they can stick to it for more than 3 years. But let me know what you think about this review, and let me know what you would rate the Elantra N. I'm Alex, Alex.Martini with 2 underscores at the end. We hope you enjoyed this video. We'll see you later. That feels real.